Deep in space, above a fiery prison planet called Dant, a scientific space station orbits the planet. Inside the ship, an icy person with an unknown identity is brought into a capsule to be thawed out. After that, a very specific set of steps are taken in order to bring the man back to life. There are a total of 7 people living aboard the ship, including 2 scientists and 3 security guards. One day, a shuttle lands on the planet carrying a new researcher by the name of Elisa. The woman gets ready for her day aboard the spaceship by getting a morning shower after waking up. 7 other passengers are criminals whose offenses were deemed so severe that they were coerced into participating in an experiment in which they would be forced to live rather than be executed for their crimes. In the meantime, the previously frozen passenger has been defrosted, and he is revealed to be a man of unknown origin who awakens severely disoriented. He appears to be sick and can hardly move at this point. It appears that he is aware of his surroundings. However, he does not interact with the people or objects around him. Meanwhile, the staff watches the prisoners in real time, non-stop. The newcomer gets to know the other prisoners, their leader Caesar, his right-hand man Lazar, the big Moloch, the lonely Bauda, Attila, a computer hacker, and Rasputin, a religious man who believes in repentance with God and is the only one who sides with the newcomer he calls Street George. The newcomer is unable to speak and often remains to gaze at what he sees as a bright, shimmering light. Street George has a strange ability that allows him to see neural connections in other people. Rasputin claims that the newcomer was sent by God to save them all, calling him Street George, the Dragon Slayer, because of the tattoo he has on his shoulder. Elisa and the station's chief researcher, Persephone, disagree about their research methods. Persephone explains that they have allowed the prisoners to build a kind of social hierarchy so that they do not kill each other. Meanwhile, Persephone's arrival prompts the station commander, Charon, to collaborate with Attila to hack Elisa's files and discover the real reason she is there. To Attila's horror, her experiments empower her to kill all of them for the sake of research. Meanwhile, Buddha's moralistic killing pattern takes effect when she sees George in great pain and attempts to strangle him to relieve his suffering. Fortunately, the other prisoners arrive and stop the mad Bauda. Caesar is furious because this is not the first time he has tried to kill others. Bauda starts to run away, and the others chase him. This leads to infighting among the other prisoners, and the guards use gas to stun them. Bauda becomes Elisa's first experiment. She injects him with nanotechnology and returns him to the prison hold. Bauda's unbearable pain over the nanites linked to his DNA draws George back, who somehow manages to remove them from him. George removes a kind of abstract energy creature from Bauda and eats it, making him well again. Bauda becomes convinced, like Rasputin, that Street George is a miracle worker and befriends him, vowing to protect George. Giorgio returns to his cell and lies down on the bed. He tries to rest, but he is obviously too sick. In the next scene, we see a prisoner sinking into a container full of water to train himself to hold his breath longer. Scientist Charon visits Elisa at night and asks him what he thinks of his first day on the ship, but Elisa continues to give him dry answers. Later, Caesar arrives to punish Bauda, but the latter says he is a different person now because George has cured him. But Caesar does not care and orders Moloch to take care of him. Moloch attempts to attack Bauda and Day. Moloch draws a knife, but Rasputin jumps in to defend George, causing Moloch to accidentally slit his own throat in the process of defending George. Moloch is knocked to the ground and loses a significant amount of blood as a result. During the procedure, the gas is introduced to incapacitate the group. As George looks at Moloch, the fire in his eyes begins to burn. It was the same strategy he used to rescue Bauda, and it worked this time as well. The security officers are astounded to find that Moloch does not have any cuts or wounds to his throat and is still alive and well despite being unconscious. They do the same thing to Caesar that they did to Bauda on their way out, which is to inject him with nanotechnology, and then they leave. Elisa makes fun of Persephone for believing that George is a miracle worker, but Moloch's skepticism compels Caesar to anticipate an imminent challenge to his authority and to hatch a plan to get rid of George. Persephone's belief that George is a miracle worker is mocked by Elisa. Caesar asserts that George is regarded as the Messiah and that he will be appointed leader of the prisoners and given permission to execute all of them if he is successful. However, Caesar is rendered incapable of personally caring for George as a result of sudden bouts of pain and illness brought on by nanotechnology. As a result, Lazar and Moloch are dispatched to do so on his behalf. In spite of this, Moloch is hesitant because George is the one who keeps him alive. George is given some space and time to himself while Bauda and Rasputin attend to his needs. While this is going on, Moloch and Lazar are having dinner together and plotting how to kill George. The researchers are keeping a close eye on Lazar and Moloch, and they have a sneaking suspicion that something is going on. Persephone is currently located in a different room, where she is attempting to decipher what Giorgio is saying. At that precise moment, Lazar initiates a vicious beating of Bauda, and Giorgio starts to throw up. After some time has passed, Giorgio exits the room and begins to walk away, but Lazar immediately attacks him and stabs him multiple times in the chest and abdomen. As Lazar flees, he is under the impression that Giorgio has passed away. The staff once more injects gas into the ship in order to put the prisoners to sleep, and then they remove Giorgio's body from the ship. During the experiments that Elisa is conducting on the body of George, Persephone has some reservations about Elisa's procedures, but she is forced to comply with Elisa and Charon's decisions. Persephone warns Elisa that they run the risk of the prisoner's death if they carry out her plan to perform experiments on his body. After that, Persephone leaves the laboratory so that she won't have to take part in the experiment. Before Elisa can continue her experiments, George, who was supposed to be dead, wakes up completely healed. He grabs Elisa, uses her as a hostage to get to the prison quarters, and then lets Elisa go after he has finished his business. Attila makes contact with Charon, and during their conversation, Charon discovers that Attila has secured all of the major computer systems in an effort to thwart their eventual sacrifice. The nanomachines are causing Caesar a great deal of pain, and the other prisoners are trying to get the scientists to assist them, but no one can hear them. Soon after that, George arrives and saves Caesar's life by consuming the virus that was residing inside of him. Caesar awakes with a shocked expression and inquires as to what he has done to him. Giorgio is suddenly knocked unconscious and starts having visions that cause him a great deal of pain. There has been a breach in the security system. Attila makes an appearance and informs the other characters of his intention to execute his vendetta against them all by driving the space station into Dante. All of this is being done because researchers intend to conduct experiments on animals. In response to this, the other inmates restrain Attila while George attempts to treat him. Despite their efforts, however, Attila is able to break free and flee. Caesar and his men make an attempt to apprehend Attila. In the end, they are successful in finding him, but they discover that he has hanged himself. Now that Attila is dead, the plans to stop the station's decaying orbit require the prisoners and the science staff to collaborate in order to be successful. This is because the mechanism that is required to stop the decaying orbit is located below the prisoners' quarters, hidden behind a trapdoor. The prisoners are in agreement, and once Charon and Persephone have led security to the area where the prisoners are located, they leave Elisa to her own devices in order to operate the controls. The residents of the station are working to open the hatch to the manual control unit when suddenly there is an explosion, which knocks everyone unconscious. Elisa makes preparations and attempts to flee in the shuttle. However, Lazar, who had to suppress his breathing during a gas release, compels her to allow him to escape with her. As the others begin to come, one of the guards goes to check on the shuttle and finds that, as part of his interference, Attila has also locked the controls to the shuttle. As a direct consequence of this, Elisa and Lazar both perish when the shuttle they were traveling in crashes on the planet below. After opening the panel, the group finds that the hatch leading into the control room is filled with water that is boiling. Caesar comes to the realization that he is the only one who can properly enter the small space. He then gets some protective clothing wrapped around him, covers himself in cold water, and jumps in. He was horribly burned when he emerged on the other side of the short journey, and he died in the compartment before entering the 6-digit code that was required to reset the control computer. During the short journey, he lost his protected goggles. Even though he has passed away, he is ultimately responsible for their successful break free from the planet's orbit. St. George leaves the space station wearing a spacesuit and ascends into thin air, floating above the planet. This occurs in a peculiar epilogue. Since he was unable to save the station, he altered the setting and suddenly used the full extent of his strange and unexplained powers. As he continues to act in this manner, it becomes abundantly clear that the strange creatures he has taken from other people are now living inside of him. In the end, as his body disintegrates into space, he transforms Dante into a livable planet.